to listen for the panel. Good afternoon. Once again, welcome in the state GCC Pavilion for a new interesting topic on climate change, path to net zero. There are certain youths, they are also coming in this field, and not only in this field, but they have their own professions, different professions, but they are looking this climate change in a perspective of their own organizations and how they can contribute for the climate change and for the benefits of the environment and the societal benefits especially. So I have on panel Josna Viliappa. She is from Bangalore and she has her own organization Blue Sky. They are working on social impacts, social methods, and they are initiating the companies and the NGOs to make the reports of social impact what they are doing, which is very important. Many times what happens now, the people are doing the work and they could not go for their impact assessment, and even the now social standards, chartered accountants, they also doesn't know what is happening over here. They just see and their own perspective that this is happening. So how much dollars have gone in it, but what impact we are getting is not known by anyone, and that sort of work Josna is doing since last so many years. So welcome Josna on this pavilion. And then I have two very young people, not students we can say, but the young climate warriors. So Shubham Agarwal from Chhattisgarh, he is recently joined the UNFCCC as an accredited organization and working a lot on mangrove forestation, degraded lands, and so on things. And so he's very young. So we can see what is the future of climate change and environmental impact. And just I met this very young guy from UK, Saikat Das, and he is working for this International Youth for Nuclear Congress. Normally, the nuclear, when we heard the word nuclear, I feel very scared about it. But sitting in front, besides him, I think I am comfortable with this word now. And because I also need to know what exactly this nuclear congress is doing, and these young people, they are working over there. He's basically from India, and still he wants to work from UK. But I'm very much fortunate to have such kind of people around me, because those who have really into the subject, like everyone is talking about that climate change is at our doors, it is in our home, it is on our bed, everywhere. But what needs to do, they don't know. Even some common people are asking all the time. But when we are talking thinking about we are going for the nuclear power and all, but there are also a bottom line is they are working for climate. So I hand over this mic to Josna for her perspective and thoughts on this climate change and net zero targets, also through the social impact. And then we will proceed to Shubham, and then this young chap Saikat will give the different vision on nuclear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Benita. And I am very, very privileged to be sitting here with two very young climate change warriors, and I wish them all the best. And so, what I just want to put it in context that we are talking a lot about climate finance, we're talking a lot about climate action, we're talking about so many climate-related damages that are happening and all that. And what we are really not talking about is the impact that this development, these new things that are coming, what we are calling as development, the new changes that are coming up, how it is impacting our society is a conversation that we really need to have. So this is an evolving body of knowledge, very honestly. Till now, the last 50 years, we've been focusing on environment, because environment is something that you can touch and see, it's tangible, heavy rains, flooding, extreme heat, you feel it. So I think the last 50 years, our knowledge about environment has increased, and I think the next 20 years, we will be learning how to communicate about the impact of those environmental changes. And this is something that we will continue to learn because it is important to talk about social impact in a language, in numbers, in a way that people can see the difference. So one of the only things that anybody wants to take away from here is how do you define impact? The impact is the delta change that happens because of a certain activity. Whether you're talking about nuclear, you're talking about a nuclear for or against. It's all about a change. Whether you're talking about deforestation, you're talking about tribal empowerment, what was the change before you got into an action and what is the change after your implementation. So it's extremely important. One of the things I would say that you need to take away from here is integrating the change that you're going to make at the start of your program. Yeah, it's not only about putting in so many billions of dollars. It's also about what is the delta change that this investment is going to be. And everybody expects these changes to be humongous. It has to change the world. But very honestly, we all know the change that happens always is slow, but it's a long journey. So social impact, I'd like to say that social impact is the new body of knowledge which needs to start integrating into all these discussions with climate change and we know what is the change that we're bringing about and how long we have to continue to work in order to maintain that change, in order to keep the change sustainable. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for an elaborate understanding, giving us the understanding of the data change that we talk about. I've been vouching about this idea for the last 6 months or so. Also, we had a discussion in our CESP members panel. I would like to propose that here. So, like we are talking about the delta change. But first, I would like to highlight a point that is happening at the grassroots levels, at the core tribal areas which have been untouched for a long amount of time. So, I'll take a context from case in point in India. We have recently faced an internet revolution. Almost for the last 3-4 years, the penetration of internet has been huge. We can see smartphones in almost every youth's hand in every gram panchayat of the country, be it the top north to the Himalayas to the top south, and so on. So what I mean to say by that is they are in constant touch with the Facebook, Instagram, and all kinds of TikToks or the latest technological interventions happening across the globe. Before 5 or 10 years back, I would say that, of course, many people or many indigenous people might or used to come out of the country. They might migrate to other places for work, they might do XYZ things. But the pace or the speed at which now that is happening is humongous. So, like for example, from Chhattisgarh, means nowadays education is almost compulsory and every parent is so well informed about the importance of education that they are ready to give their heart and soul out of to get the best educations for the students of the community. So students are becoming top-notch officers, they are becoming scientists, they are joining NASA, ISRO and so on. So what I want to highlight with all these points is because all these students go out, then they come back to their hometowns maybe for 10 days, 15 days. We saw in lockdown that they came and even settled, many of them settled. So what is happening is, like let's talk about New York, let's talk about Dubai, of course, a simple example. So we have concrete jungles here. I'm not critical at all about the infrastructure development, but when we talk about the global developed metro cities, there are a lot of technological interventions which are unsustainable. Like simple as like flying means the aircrafts that fly. They cause a lots of carbon emissions. We cannot stop that at one go because we need that for as road drivers. But so I want to bring this case analysis to those indigenous people. So what I want to portray here is like they are standing at the crossroads. That means, so it is our main responsibility to educate them about the sustainable future that everyone needs to take care of. Also, we need to educate them and tell them about if mix, because everyone likes luxury, everyone wants to go to the hustle and bustle of the cities and all the modern developments happening. So means obviously indigenous people communities, the students, everyone would like to get a taste of the new systems. And also in this race, they might also get into the vicious circle. But see, this is one aspect of it which sounds very good. But the ironical part of it is that if like me wearing a coat suit and living in AC offices, going in AC cars to those regions and talking to them or explaining them about this, it is an irony. It will make them feel terrible that say this guy, he is already doing means getting all the luxuries of his life and he wants me to get aloof of it. So this is just a food for thought. I don't have an answer yet. I think our dignitaries and maybe we could come to a unison where we can be what to say, respectable enough of the others' cultures, other people's requirements and everything, as well as understand our responsibilities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alan, for all the amazing discussion. Thank you so much for having me. The most important part, I will start with the question. Is climate changing? This is the most crucial part that we have to explain to everyone. It's not about the climate, it's not about how everything is changing, it's about the humanity, how we have been impacted through it. Right? So, as we have told about the director changes, and we have also told about the minute changes that we have to see, I think there is playing a coefficient, I would say. So according to Delta, we have to multiply coefficient because changes are different in every sector, every society, every region, right? If I'm speaking about the global north, the changes are different. If I'm speaking about the global south, the changes are different. But also, if I'm changing about the villages who doesn't have electricity right now, the changes are different. So I'll take you all to a pathway where I really went through. So I'm really lucky that I was a part of Garb Yojana and also Saubhagya Yojana, Har Ghar Bijli, and also I was a part of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So according to that phase, I really saw the vulnerable society of ours where 40% of the villages were not electrified at that time, right? During that phase of time, we used to carry, like many engineers, we used to carry a lot of equipments through rivers and tunnels because we don't have any pavements or approachable roads, right? What we will say to them is climate changing, or you need roti kapra matan, or we need clothes, we need food, right? So impact is always defined by the delta, but also multiplied by the coefficient of how they are believed. So right now I'm getting an example that we are from the nuclear society, nuclear for climate, and we get a lot of pragmatic, different nuance, societal thinking, skeptic about my nuclear can have a lot of issues. Now, why I told you about that? Because education, right? So if we say about the nexus of electricity, we really need to build up the base load. That is the reason that we don't have any electricity in the villages, because we don't have proper transmission lines, proper grid, smart grids, and of course we have to be in a phase that it has to be emission free. Like I'm not in the way that okay, fossil fuel phase out. Of course we are in developed country, we can't say that fossil fuel phase out, but emission fossil fuel, the emission one, fossil fuel phase down can happen, and for the phase downing we need a proper grid. But also as an Indian, I know that getting a proper smart grid is really a tough one in a time bound. So why not to include renewables, a mix, nuclear if possible, otherwise a mix where we can use the already existing infrastructure and we can everyone give a proper electricity. Then we can speak to them that okay, this is the climate change, right? Because you are getting the electricity, you are getting food, you are getting everything. They will think about that climate change. Otherwise, they won't. And they are the majority of the people who are the farmers, who are who are doing very minute job for us every day, but we don't count them. But those are the majority of the people, right? So I think, according to me, the social impact is really, really important. Also, for any industries, any startups in India, we should have a forward-looking disclosures, including the social impact on that. As a CSR, we have, but in the CSR reports, we don't found any impacts in the ground, like literally in a practical ground, we don't find it. So I think we have to find a way that we can detail it in a data manner, and also we have to be in the ground basically to see how they are acting on it. So education and awareness is the most important part, and infrastructure, acting and executing the existing infrastructure with non-emitting, generations, like innovations and technology is the most important part according to me. Now I'm putting a question again: is climate changing?
Yes, of course. Is climate changing? The answer is yes. And I feel that climate change is a man-made. It is not that the natures have changed their paths, but because of our behavior, the interventions, and more or less to look at it as a development, it's the fast development. Everyone needs a development, I don't say that. But the day before yesterday also I was talking the same thing, that we are using highest ACs. Why? It's not needed. 15 degrees centigrade is not needed at all in the hotels and all, but they are using it that. They don't. And see, in my when I was a child, I used to stay in a house. There was no even fan, single fan. So when we were going out, we didn't feel that it's very hot, because we were coming from the same 20 degrees and outside was the 25 or so. Now we are coming out from the 15 degrees Celsius and outside there is a 42. Then you say that because of that I had a sunstroke and people are dying because of that. But the habits have changed like anything. So we need to focus on our habits, which we are changing. If the Paris Agreement actually, when Paris Agreement is in force, all the countries have imposed to developed countries that they should change their behavior patterns. So, and when we are talking about nuclear power and all, how you feel that if we are using it in the day-to-day things, is it cost effective for India? In terms of India, not only India, Bangladesh, in Nepal, there are many poor people. They are just fighting with the cyclones, and having the pure water is a task for them. It's a lifelong achievement if they get every day a pure water. So in that kind of thing, how do you think that this power will, the nuclear power will help to get to them as a livelihood, or they can develop their own communities and that?
That's really a nice question, because these questions are faced by us every day, and this is where we spoke about the awareness and education, right? So first of all, we have to understand LCOE, a levelized cost of electricity, and also we have to understand the capacity factor, right? So when we speak about solar and wind farms, you know how much is the maximum capacity factor? Capacity factor means how much of energy you can get in a whole year of lifetime. So we say that we will get 100%, 90%. The maximum is maximum 40%, where you have like huge sun or huge wind is blowing, 45% or 40%. The maximum capacity of renewables can go to 100 to 90 to 100% also, because we don't have any shutdown period. We don't have any we have a lot of inertia in it, so it's always like flowing. Of course, the stability is really good. The flexibility, because we can use any grid, is really good. The waste management is the most important part here, right? So the LCOE of the whole lifetime is really, really low, which we need. And I'm really lucky enough that I have my colleague here, who is working in the same nexus of India for the nucleus. So I would really like him to give some inputs. Somit.
And I'll put that numbers in perspective today. If I want to put it in actual numbers manner, so let us consider it this way. today we somehow utilize energy what is close to about 10,000 terawatt hour per year per annum is our consumption. And that is supposed to, if you use a linear model like the business as usual by 2050, we are supposed to have a 20,000 terawatt hour. So that is twice what we are consuming. But if the GDP and the highest growth rate are that we are aiming for the ambitious growth rate, then it has to be somewhat close to 40,000 terawatt hour. That is at least 4 times. So now where this energy could come from? We have, I was involved in a study where the numbers come out to be like the potential of the renewables is, taking into consideration. There was one exercise carried out by IIT Bombay. Professor Sukhatme has carried it out. So they had considered 5%, 10%, and 15% of the wasteland and calculated the solar power. That comes out to be only more or less, maximum 2,000 terawatt by this biofuel and everything. Even if you consider that, the total is just 4,000 terawatt hour. So as he said, it is only the 50% of today's consumption. And what we are wishing is that if we target to the highest one at 40,000 terawatt hour, then it is not sufficient. The other part what we are targeting, so that base load has to come out. The other I'll also put that in perspective in numbers is, let us consider the cost effectiveness, the LCOE what we talked about. So LCOE for coal is somewhat around 3 to 4 rupees per kilowatt hour. Solar is comparative to that part. Wind is less, I think, but when looking at the intermittency, the moment you put CCUS or battery storage close to them, it adds the cost by 9 rupees. It adds by 9 rupees. Battery system and CCUS, that is carbon capture and carbon storage. Those facilities to reduce the carbon emissions from the burning of the coal and the fossil fuels. So at the end of the day, the cost for per unit of electricity generated comes out to be 11 rupees, close to 11 rupees. That is the study carried out by Bangalore. So if that is to be the perspective, so nuclear availability factor is 0.9. That means it is available 90% of the time. So if we take cost into consideration, the nuclear electricity would only cost somewhat close to 5 rupees per kilowatt. Current comparison to the coal is high, but then battery and carbon capture once considered, this is the comparison. And consider many of the industries that the captive usage of heat is prevalent, like material industry, metals are used for captive power. So they require heat. And the general conversion of heat to electricity is 30%. So even if the direct heat is being provided, so the 1/3 cost is required for that. If nuclear is giving 4 rupees, consider 4 rupees 4 rupees 50 paisa, then it is only 1 rupee 50 paisa per unit of heat that is provided to the industry. Currently, that rate is higher than 3 or 4 rupees. So this is where nuclear comes into cost effectiveness, and that is where the production of the further products is also the energy consumption and the cost can come down. The other aspect to this which can add is the hydrogen production or the alternate fuel what we are looking towards. The chemically, if you look towards the energy consumption, the calorific value and the lowest, ideally the cost can only be about 150 rupees per kg of hydrogen. With nuclear as a base load oil, then directly having the production of hydrogen will cost around 180 to 200 rupees per kilo. So it cannot go beyond 150, but the closest what we today can achieve is 200 per kg of hydrogen from nuclear itself. So that is the perspective we are going to see. And as not just Bangladesh, but India, as you have seen from the 1950s to here, India is currently a water scarce, going towards the water scarce of the time. So that is where a direct approach of using heat to desalination plants as a smaller base load. Because now nuclear is turning towards not a bigger plants, but smaller reactors, micro reactors, which can be placed just besides the highways as well, or the think of the domains where the safety is being so excellent and qualified that no one can actually have an effect of it, and the need accidents are being eliminated by design. So even if anything happens, accidents cannot happen. That kind of particularly care what we are trying to achieve is what the aim is, and we have achieved in some cases. Yeah, please.
Before you ask a question, I just want to put one more thing. Neither of these programs literally narration. Nuclear is good. Okay. Let's take but social impact has got two sides. One is the positive impact and one is the negative impact. Till now, when we say what we are already talking, we always assume when we are talking about social impact, we are only talking about water. No, there is got to be a discussion of potential negative impact. Yeah? There will always be a negative impact as long as your positive impact is more than your negative impact. Your project has been successful. And also, this is where the chartered accountants and the risk professionals come in. There will always be a negative impact as long as we manage the risk aspect. You see, we talked about social impact, we talked about positive impact and negative impact. And when we are talking about a negative impact, we are talking about managing the risk. And that's when the whole circle will come. That's when the whole circle will be completed. We cannot only talk about positive impact, we cannot only talk about negative impact, there is so much of advantage. But if we look at both of this and start bringing in an element of risk, and we are very good at managing risk. We are very good at managing risk, because it's a study which is, we have been good at managing risk for the last 20 years. We know the concept of risk. We have ISO standards on risk, we have an entire body of knowledge. When we look at social impact, look at positive, negative, we start seeing managing the negative risk as a part of our planning design. That's when I think organizations are very, very
I'll give you a successful example of positive and negative impact. So we were on a exercise of creating people's biodiversity registers as well as biodiversity management committees as per the Biodiversity Act 2000. So I was in, let's say, in one of the villages, and it was one of our first interactions. So how generally we do that kind of task is we have volunteers in that village, means the volunteers who belong to that village, because they are engaged with us, with our village, or some of the other villages. Exactly. So, so first we approach our volunteers to ask them to do a local capacity building exercise so that everyone knows that for what agenda are they coming in, and then all the village people or the stakeholders who are invited to the meeting for the participatory rural appraisal, the PRA process, they are ready for it and they commit on the date we decide to meet together. So ultimately I went there, and one of the very first, after my introduction and introduction of the people who were with me, my very first question was, can you tell me what are the natural resources of the non-timber forest produces that are coming out of your forest from the area? Immediately a lady raised her hand and told me that, sir, we are not very comfortable discussing that with you. Maybe, not very much comfortable to take with you. Then my follow-up question was, are you really skeptic? How can we assure you that we are on the same side and we are working together to achieve a common target? So she said that what generally happens, there are corporates or there are traders who are coming in and they are getting our trade secrets, or they just get to know that from the forest near their areas, XYZ name of species come out, and that is the raw material they need to do some value addition activities and so on. And later I got to know that she was the Pradhan of the village. She had been the Pradhan of the village. So that means I really got so happy and intrigued listening to her that dynamically she could defend her point on the resources of her village. She is that informed. That was a good aspect of it. But of course, there is a negative aspect of it also. So like when we go to villages to understand the ecology there, or to do some primary surveys related to biodiversity and documentation of traditional knowledge systems, what generally happens is like they tell their problems, they try to tell their pain that X or X person or the Y person is cutting down the trees, or there are departments involved who are cutting the trees for a very minuscule amount of money and so on. So as ma'am very rightly pointed out that there are positives as well as negatives. So so when we submit a DPRs to either government agencies or the IGOs and other kind of agencies, we do try to take care that we try to highlight some of those points.
Thank you so much for bringing up the on-ground facts, right? Basically, it's all about materiality, right? So when we speak about risk, when we speak about how we should manage to get the data, the most problem is how we manage the double materiality, right? We will manage it if we are a company. You'll always manage to give it a positive feedback because of your stakeholders, right? And no one is there to audit the same thing or question the same thing because this is not mandate. Like if you see the ESG, if you see the CFG, no, it's become mandated, but the data that you're finding, like from where you're finding, it has not been audited. That's the thing I'm speaking about. So this has been found from the index level, like what index your company is. So the CDF has an index, CFD index. Yeah. So
Yeah, CDF is one thing. Sorry.
no,
But the thing is, technically, in India, for the top 150, whatever has to have a list structure, not even
I assure you, I was talking about this the same thing. That's right. Yeah. So when I started with the material, the policies are the most important part when we speak, right? So yeah, the governance. So when we speak about risk, so there is an opportunity and threat. It's not about the positive and negative, like how you are getting a positive impact from that or negative impact from that. Right? So if we speak about projects, so it's all have to be gone through the vulnerable society who are directly impacted and who are negatively impacted, right? So there has to be in a proper manner notified and recorded, and then we should impact and work on the grounds, not like from upward, like what is going on, and we'll just change or we'll do subsidies or something. We have to see how this vulnerable society is working, work closely, because while I was speaking about working with them, like electrifying the villages, there are a lot of people who say that okay, they have been like many projects are going on, but it's been like 8 years, 10 years now, but it hasn't been completed till now. No one is there to govern them. No one is there to like take the notes and notify to the government. No one is there. Why there is a gap? Just because of the policies. Why there is a gap? We have to find it first, right? Then we have to act. I think Neil has something to say.
There's one very important point. You have picked up a point. Tell me something, who experiences social impact? Stakeholders. So getting the stakeholders involved to assess whether there has been a positive or a negative impact on one of the cornerstones with nuclear power. Yeah? Now, if everything goes well, goes to stakeholder, everything goes back to suffers community. And then, like, give a brilliant example of a stakeholder is empowered. That is when the social impact of any environmental or governance program actually works. Is when your stakeholders are involved. When you have empowered your stakeholders. The social impact is the delta change made on a stakeholder. Now there will be hundreds of stakeholders, some in alignment with you, some in conflict with you. Now let's look at a capitalistic thing. I am an investor, I have put in certain amount of money, I am looking for a 50% return on it. Okay, that's one. Let's say I am a community where the nuclear power is coming in, and I am least interested whether you get 15% or 20%. I do not want the nuclear power because I am scared that there is going to be flooding. See, they are completely contradictory. So when you are talking about materiality or a double materiality, one of the first things that you have to talk about when you are talking about social impact is to identify your important stakeholders. Only then does the entire discussion become more. The boundaries of social impact are defined. Otherwise, what is good for me will be very bad for you. Are you going to listen to both of us, or you can say, at present I'm not looking at you, I'm looking at you, whatever. Rational decision to put the boundaries of social impact is something that has to be.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That's very true. I would like to add, means a very, what to say, a shocking revelation which I recently got to know. Just a couple of days back, we were actually sitting on the National Consultation for National Biodiversity Strategy Action Plan as per the Cummings, the COP15 protocols. So basically, National Biodiversity Authority of India is updating the national biodiversity targets. So actually it means there is a Convention on Biological Diversity which happened in 1992 at Nagoya Protocol. And one of the main outcomes of the series of discussions and interventions in 1997, it come to a conclusion that there should be a free and prior informed consent with the relevant stakeholders that you are involved with. So what I think it's yes, it is, ma'am. But the most shocking part is there is no national legislation in India which compensates or requests for this FPIs. This is so sad. Means I'm happy to tell you, like, we are working in Chhattisgarh. So there are 10,000 gram panchayats where BMC and PBR exercises are supposed to take. And our honorable member secretary sir took that pain and initiative to make a compulsory move to have this FPIC in place. We do that right now. So the exercise which I was talking about in my last discussion a couple of minutes back, there we actually went there for our first FPIC exercise to get everyone. Yeah, free and prior informed consent. That is when we, like, let's say a nuclear plant is coming 2 kilometers from my village. So I should be fairly and in prior informed. It's not like the plant is installed and then we get to know you're getting an invitation letter, okay, come and join for a party, it's open now. So means all the stakeholders should be equally identified, as ma'am very specifically told about, and they should be very clearly intimated about the current things that are supposed to happen. And this is the responsibility of course, the governments and the international global platforms like UNFCCC and all the other IGOs working together. I think these means ultimately this has come to the grassroots levels to ultimately bring the delta change. And yeah, that's the.
I'm liking this conversation because all the way we can allow according to the delta change. Right? So the FPX, of course, like when I was working with the government at the time, we supposed to have the FPIs all the time, right? But the weightage, we have every weightage for every document. So it was the least weightage, I don't know why. But now where we come in, when Ma'am said and we also discussed that awareness and education, if we can literally aware and educate those people in the grassroots level, right? If they know that certain documents really exist and which is mandate, why not they will step up, of course. And when we will say that, okay, we don't advocate for a planet, no, a nuclear, no, never. We try to educate about the nuclear. Now it's your decision whether you want it or not. We will also tell you the negative and the positive aspect, the pros and cons. Of course, we don't want any hazard. India is my country. Of course, I don't want anything, nothing. If the community wants it, we will provide it in the safest manner we can. If they don't want it after all the education that is provided, of course, fine. We have renewables. We are engineers, we are change makers. We are not from a particular energy nexus, right? We have LCOEs, we have CFs, which has to be converted to them. We have the smart grids still can be converted. We have all of the information. India is the best one into AI and of course the smart metering, right? So I think this is the best area when we can make some changes, but education comes the first, where we can make a delta change and of course the coefficient for regional changes.
So again, I'm not discouraging the young people who are bringing in solutions, but I am typically playing the older person who will keep asking questions to be convinced. So again, we need that, of course we all need that. So what I was saying, have you heard this term called the wicked problem? Yeah. So people who have studied so they say social development is a wicked problem. Yes? And what do you mean by a wicked problem? A wicked problem is the minute you arrive at a certain solution, the goalpost changes. Yeah? The goalpost changes. And then you find a solution again for the new goalpost, and then the goalpost changes. So I personally feel like nuclear, or whether we are talking about biodiversity, or see, when we are really going to start talking about social impact, what we will have to be clear is that it is a social impact that we planned for a certain time span. And there will be a lot of awareness. Okay, let's suppose we go through an energy crisis. If you go there and then do your nuclear, whatever, you talk about nuclear power as a source of energy, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people saying yes. But 10 years down the line, one bad incident somewhere, you're going to have a lot of people saying no. So what I want to say is, while yours is a solution, it might not be a complete solution for everybody, and it is the growth that we are going to get. We're going to get a body of knowledge, we're going to get our experience, to get better and better at solving it. Because social development is a wicked problem. We will never ever reach a place where we say, we're done.
See, the social impact and social problems are always there, and there is a lot of, it's a far flung when you see it from this end. But when we are talking about the nuclear power, I'm very much interested in nuclear. But when we are talking about how you convince people, or how you convince yourself when promoting it, how it is sustainable.
I will first answer small perspective because of course we like to have experienced people through questions. So when we speak about people, we have to speak about the energy trilemma, right? We are speaking about the energy nexus. So right now I'm really happy to say that we also don't experience the energy trilemma with energy quadrilemma, because people has been included into the trilemma section. So we are speaking about the security, the equity, the environment, and right now the people. So this is the economic aspect of a society where we say the energy trilemma or the energy quadrilemma. Equity, environment. So yeah. So when we try to find a country which is really bad, good, or neutral in energy, we will always go with energy trilemma index, where how the equity is, like how the money is working on it, like is it really profitable or is going negative towards people. Then how is the security, like is it flowing or it will suddenly just go off. How's the environment working in terms of energy productions? If we are like a fossil fuel production or coal electricity production, so how it is doing. So those are the trilemma indexes that we get, like A, B, C, or CCC, or DDD kind of thing. So right now we also have people, how people are reacting towards the energy nexus in the energy quadrant. So whole equation is being converted to the CBA, like cost benefit analysis. So down the line, when we see the in a 10 years or in a 20 years of time, so ma'am has said, like if it's like if we see that after 10 years there's a incident or something happened, so those incidents are being taken as a factors. Like if the incident happened, how we will tackle on it, a kind of you can say a contingency factors that we always take on it, right? So if you take a 20 years or 30 years down the line of the CBA analysis, right? So we also have those contingencies that, okay, one contingency B, two contingency C. So C is the most extreme one. So we always play along the line, and it's the most safest, I can say. If you really see like what is the depth count from a coal mine or a petroleum mine and literally a nuclear generation, least is the nuclear one. Is from the statistics. Yes, it is. And a lot of innovations are going on till now.
Generating energy through nuclear things is a newer science. So when you're talking about fatalities and loss, you're talking about a smaller generation of time. But I just have one question before I pass it on. When you're talking about your risk, do you look at political risk of nuclear? Do you look at political risk? Is that you see? Is that you see?
I will also pass the mic to my colleague. So, for the political and geopolitical risk, there is a lot of governance bodies are working all together. So, we also have like EIAE, who is been always the governance for the political risk, and like how the geopolitics work. If the terrorism, if I say like dirty bombs, of course, we can make the dirty bombs. As I say, like everything has a risk, like opportunity and threat, right? And also, if we speak about the waste and how we can use the cesium 137, a lot of companies, a lot of medical sectors, density monitoring sectors, they are using cesium 137 as to find the densities, as to find problems in the bodies. It's usable. And also, so that is the thing, we have to minimize the risk by calculating the blockchain, like how much leisure we have, how much production we have. Every time we have to monitor and modify and also scrutinize the whole the supply chain. So the supply chain management is the most important part for that. I'm passing the mic to my colleague.
Thank you. To answer to that, considering where the savers, what you are trying to geopolitical come with the safeguard, I just in a overall point of view. So security and safeguard are the paramount irrespective of whatever the situation is. So the nuclear really follows defense in that. That means already there are